The following is a paid issue advertisement.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won. It's not about what party. It's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
Paid for by RealAmerica.vote, a DBA of New York Citizens Audit Civic Fund, Incorporated.
Go to RealAmerica.vote.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi!
Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
There are so many things on the table between China, trade, obviously their influence with Iran. And of course, right now, everything with Iran is sort of in a standstill, if you will. President Trump saying the latest offer is garbage, that there's nothing in there. Sounds to me like he is gearing up for potentially some military action because Iran is kind of baiting him. There's no question. Iran is giving him a half blank offer, and he knows that's not any sort of an offer. And earlier today, he talked with my WABC colleague, Sid Rosenberg, and did a wide-ranging interview. I was talking with Sid earlier, and he got about 40 minutes with the President of the United States, which is awesome. Bravo to my friend Sid Rosenberg. And President Trump talked about the enriched uranium and the plan to get rid of it, because that is what this is all about with Iran. And that's a big focus of what he's going to be talking about when he goes in front of President Xi. They have not met each other in a bit of time, at least on China soil. It's been about 9 years since they were together. And so he's going to sit face to face with President Xi. And you know she's going to bring up Iran, and he's going to bring up oil, and he's going to bring up all these issues. And President Trump is going to say, bottom line, just like he did with Sid, they cannot have nukes. Take a listen.
Getting back to Iran for a second. Look, I don't know if they're ever really going to stop enriching the uranium. You go back to those two dopes, Obama and Kerry. Sorry, two dopes. They signed that deal. They thought they did a great job. It took Iran
what a horrible deal.
Yeah, one day it took them to actually go back on that deal. But do you really feel President Trump, I should say, forget about the Strait of Hormuz for 1 second, forget about regime change. Do you really feel in your heart of hearts that you can stop Iran from enriching uranium and never build a bomb? Never.
100%.
Okay.
They're going to stop. And they told me, the Iranians told me, and I deal with them, and they said that we're going to get the dust. I call it the nuclear dust because it's appropriate. It's easier for people to understand. And we're going to get it. The problem is there's only two countries in the world that can get it, us and China, because nobody has the equipment. Because when we bombed it, it was a total, that I was right, it was a total obliteration. The entire mountain collapsed on top of it. And they said, the Iranians told me, they said, nope, it'll be yours. But then they changed their mind. But they did say, because, you know, they demeaned the B-2 bombers. Those guys, every shot hit. Then we sent in Tomahawks from a submarine. They all hit. But every shot hit. And they demeaned the B-2 bombers when CNN starts saying, you know, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. Iran told me that it was so devastating that no country in the world other than us, and they said China, would be able to, has the machinery to be able to get that.
I believe it. Now, one more on Iran, and that is regime change. Israelis want that. And there seems to be this ridiculous rumor. It's been going on for years, created once again, President Trump, by the horrible people on the left, which has you and Bibi fighting with each other every day. You guys are fighting. You guys are fighting. I know that's not true. I know you guys are very, very close, but they seem pretty dead set on regime change. Is that a possibility? Where are we in that situation?
Well, first of all, I get along great with Bibi. We've been partners in the true sense. You wouldn't have an Israel without the both of us. And you wouldn't have it without me. If I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal signed by Barack Hussein Obama, have you heard of him? If I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal, it's one of the worst deals ever made, they would have had, it was a path for a nuclear weapon, and there was nothing you could have done to stop it. They would have had a nuclear weapon 4 years ago, and they would have used it on Israel, and they would have used it in the Middle East and maybe beyond that. So it was good. No, but the relationship that I have with Bibi is excellent.
And that is definitely true. How about that line where he just said, you would not have an Israel if it were not for me and Bibi. And they will not have nukes under any circumstances. That's what this is all about. And that's why that offer that came back from Iran to President Trump's offer saying, here's our proposal. Somehow it didn't even have anything about nuclear weapons in it. How could he ever accept anything like that? That's a preposterous notion. And the Iranians know that. They are just buying time. I firmly believe that they are just trying to straggle this out as long as they can. And then they're hoping, okay, maybe in the midterms, there'll be Democrats in power. They'll try to impeach Trump. I bet you Al Green will do it on day one, the guy with the cane wagging, remember, during the State of the Union. And then, how about the guy with the bad hair, too, from Michigan, whatever his name, with the 5,000 syllable Sri Lanka Lubadu, right? That guy, right? So between both of them, there's I'd say before lunchtime, he'll be impeached with one of them. At least they'll introduce articles before lunch, maybe by the end of breakfast. So that's what you have there. And then they're trying to hope, okay, well, maybe there'll be a Democrat president at some point. Maybe the next one will be a Democrat. And they will just try to stall. That's the plan. And President Trump knows it, and the world knows it. Also, by the way, President Trump also talking about Mayor Mamdani. Now, these new protests that we have seen have been outright disgusting. They were breaking last night when we were on the show, and now we have a lot more details about it. This last protest, this anti-Semitic one, it's the second one in less than a week, second one in 6 days. This one in New York City, this one in Brooklyn. And there were a number of people who were arrested. And I was walking at the video. The video is downright chilling. You see these masked pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic, vile protesters that are punching and screaming at little Jewish kids, grabbing a little Jewish girl's hair, throwing her, it looked like almost against a car. These people have no scruples. They have no morals. They're marching down the street, chanting death to Israel. They're just downright not vile and anti-Israel. I contend they're anti-American. They are so just vicious. And the fact that they think that they're emboldened enough that they feel they can go in front of these synagogues and Jewish facilities without reprisals. And only 4 of them got arrested. There were several hundred people. So what happened to the other, say there were 400 out there. What happened to the other 396? How come they weren't arrested too? Because I could see just even on the video, there was a lot of very destructive, dangerous action. And Mayor Mamdani, crickets today. Absolutely nothing. That's a disgrace. And that completely, I believe, emboldens these protesters because they know that they have a guy in the mayor's office who's saying, keep on going. That's great stuff. That's free speech in his mind. That's a beautiful sign of protest. That's like flowers in the bloom in the springtime. That's what he thinks it is. We look at it like, a death warmed over. To me, when I see that, I think it's frightening. I think it's chilling. And I'm not Jewish. But I know what that means. It's horrible. My father grew up right outside the Warsaw Ghetto. My father saw the Holocaust. We don't want to see that again in modern times. It is chilling. And I cannot even imagine what some of those Holocaust survivors who are part of these different Jewish organizations, when they see that on the streets of New York, and then they see a mayor who doesn't have the cojones to crack down on it, that is shameful. So President Trump was asked about Mayor Mamdani in general. He was being very kind. I give President Trump a lot of credit. He shows a lot more restraint than I do when it comes to Mayor Mamdani. Oh, he's a nice guy. He's this, he's that. He is a nice guy. I met him. He has a nice smile. I agree with that. But he should be being a leader. At this moment, if he came out, first of all, nobody would believe him because of the comments he's made and the likes that his wife has made on all these social media posts. But at least better late than never. And so far, it's been never. So here is Mayor Mamdani. Here is what President Trump had to say about him and also about New York City, because Sid was talking with him and saying, hey, what do you think about the direction of New York City in general, not just the protests, but in general? And here is what the president told Sid.
New York is a mess right now, and it's not really working, President Trump, under Kathy Hochul. And look, we need a lot of help at both the state and the city level. You know, I know that you've had two very nice meetings with Mayor Mamdani in the Oval Office, for example, but I got to tell you, President Trump, above and beyond all the anti-Semitism stuff, and, you know, obviously you talked about him destroying the city financially. We got a major issue in this city with the police, and you're a law and order president. You do an amazing job with that. You've made cities safe, President Trump, that were really unsafe right before you took office. This guy can't stand the cops. I mean, I've got sergeants and detectives and all kinds of people. They are leaving. The cops are leaving this city. How do I make an argument for that?
Well, I never knew whether or not that was, real or not real. Maybe it's a political. I don't understand that political rhetoric because I think it's not good politics, frankly. But look, he came down to the Oval Office twice. He's a nice person. I really like him. He's a nice guy. But, you can't tax people out of New York. When you tax people out of New York, you never get them back. They think they're going to get them back. Like she's trying to get them back now. You don't get them back. Once they leave, they're gone. And, I mean, you won't have a city left. You won't have a state left. It's a very dangerous thing that's happening right now.
Yeah, and they are driving people out in droves. That's one of the things that President Trump said he is very concerned about. And he talked about Ken Griffin, of course, the big hedge fund guy who essentially said, you know what, you start doing these taxes on second homes. Mayor Mamdani just unveiled his executive budget a few hours ago. What does it have? A tax on second homes. And he stood in front of a big sign that says tax the rich. Like, he might as well just say, I'm going to drive all businesses out of New York. Doesn't that sound great? That's essentially what he's saying. And President Trump knows the repercussions of Mamdani's plans. Take a listen.
Do you know Ken Griffin, Mr. President?
I do.
I figured you did because he's a very successful man, a great man just like you. And he wants to do a $6 billion project right here on Park Avenue. And who loves Park Avenue more than you? And you've got the mayor, this guy outside of his residence, and he does a whole film. And Ken Griffin goes above and beyond the fact that he just humiliated me. And I'm a billionaire looking to spend money in New York City. It's unsafe. He's doing a video from the front of where I live. And now Ken Griffin is thinking about taking that $6 billion project for a city, President Trump, that's $5.4 billion in debt, and taking that to Miami. How does that make sense?
Well, I do know Ken, and Ken's an amazing businessman, one of the best, and you don't want to lose people. He also pays a lot of taxes, like me. Right. We pay a lot of taxes. And, when you lose people like that, it's sort of not recoverable. Always you say something's recoverable, right? But it's not recoverable. Then they build something else. They're going to be there for 30 years. They don't come back. And you've got to do the opposite. You've got to cherish them. You got to bring them to the office. You got to meet them. You have to have dinner with them. You have to convince them not to leave. You're going to make their life great. You're going to help them with their building, with their project. You got to do it. And I don't know if it's not hard to do, but maybe it is for some people. But you don't want to lose people like Ken. That would be a big loss for New York.
That would be a huge loss for New York. But Mayor Mamdani seems to want to telegraph it. I could not believe, again, just a few hours ago, he's standing in front saying, yeah, we're going to be doing that tax on second homes like Ken Griffin's. It was just that advertisement where he was literally standing and saying, this is Ken Griffin's home. And Ken Griffin was like, how dare you show my home in some ad and blast me and vilify me when I have done so much for jobs in New York at that 350 Park Avenue that Sid was talking about, doing a lot of charity work. I mean, he's donated, I think it's like 400 or 500 million with an M dollars to charity. And now you are driving that guy out and driving so many others out, and you're telegraphing it. You are bragging about it. The one thing I can say about Zoran Mamdani is he said it on the campaign trail, I'm going to tax the rich, and he is socking it to him. And he is socking it to New York in so many ways.
77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.